Ready to rock some watercolors? Today we're going to walk you through this demo step by step. Let's get started. All right, today what we're going to do, we have a variety of brushes. So you have a big brush, some medium-sized brushes, and a small brush, okay? Have a fourth a cup of water, so just a little bit of water. Have our watercolor paint set and some paper towels. I don't need all these brushes wet right now, so I'm gonna leave those out to kind of dry. The first thing we're going to do is you're going to figure out what side of paper you need to be painting on. And to do that, you need to look at your paper and look and see what side is going to be rougher. So what side's going to have more of that texture, okay? This is the side that's gonna have more of that texture. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the sky. So I'm gonna just get my brush clean, and I actually have a little bit of blue in my brush, if you can see. And I'm just wetting my paper about halfway down, okay? So I got my paper nice and wet. This is called a wet on wet technique. I'm going to grab some of this blue that I already mixed up, and I'm going to paint this kind of here and there because I want to leave some spots for kind of the illusion of clouds, okay? So once I put these little kind of dashes in here, I'm gonna actually add a few more, maybe a little bit darker and different colors. Then what I'm gonna do is just kind of rinse out my brush, wipe off my brush. My brush is still pretty wet. And I'm gonna just take this and I'm gonna flat brush this back and forth, and it will kind of blend this blue, blue sky kind of look, okay? If you wanna add a little bit more, kind of here and there, you can. These will kind of be different like cloud-like textures. I am going to add some, mountains to this scene, so most of this will get kind of covered up, but if you want to kind of give the illusion to that, you sure can. And the wet on wet does a really good job of bleeding in to each other, kind of looking really nice. If you have a light blue, that's a nice one to add to get a variety of blue, not just choosing one blue color. That'll make your painting look richer and more in-depth, okay? I'm going to actually paint my water kind of down below here. So I'm gonna do another wet on wet and kind of get my water going, since I also have to blow dry for that. It'll just save me a little bit of time later coming back to blow dry. So I'm just grabbing all my blue kind of colors, and I want the top, this part, to be the darkest, and I want it to kind of gradually fade out to a lighter color. So I might go back in and try to darken this up a little bit. And have that kind of fade out. Again, just pulling some more paint, layering on another color of darkness, and then just kind of lightly touching the top to kind of have that fade out. If I want to get this kind of blended, I kind of have a line going down here. I'm going to just clean my brush out, get most of the water off of my brush, and then just pull this brush kind of back and forth to kind of have that. Oh yeah, that looks way better. Make sure you're going full strokes all the way across. Okay, now I have a more of a gradual gradation that I want, and so I'm going to now blow dry the whole piece. That'll save us some time later. Okay, that is nice and dry. Now what I want to do is I want to get a smaller brush. I'm going to try to kind of cut in my mountain range here. So I'm gonna mix up some colors. I want a little bit of darker, a little bit of this brown in here, make this a little bit darker, add a little bit of purple to this mix. If you don't want to use those different colors too, you don't have to. Those are just colors that I thought would kind of make the mountain range color look a little bit better. All right, and now I'm ready to go. I'm loaded, my brush is loaded up with paint. You can barely even see that this has purple or brown in it. It mainly just looks like blue, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut in with this. I'm going to make this clean edge. Okay, and then with all this extra paint here, I'm going to simply take this and try to blend this so I don't have this line. And I'm going to kind of have this fade down into this area. I kind of want to keep this a lighter area because I'm going to kind of create it to make it look like a little bit more like fog. And so because of that, I want to kind of make sure this doesn't get too dark. So I'm going to clean my brush. So I just have a clean wet brush, and I'm just taking that with the clean water to try to kind of blend this down into this area. You want to do this right away. I probably waited a bit too long. You can see some of my paper is now kind of pulling up, and I don't really love that. I want these colors to mix well together for this mountain range. And I'm gonna go back and pull some color again, just to kind of make this blend a little bit. When you get this paper rubbing though, you don't wanna keep going. It's probably about time to be done when you get that kind of paper rubbing. So at that point, you can kind of stop. I'm gonna try to cut in and make this even darker. Should have used a smaller brush. I'm gonna go back and now I'm gonna grab a smaller brush to do the other side. I'm just pulling a few darker colors to try to get this edge just a little bit darker. Yep. And then I'm trying to blend this right away when it's wet and not trying to wait so long. So that way it can get some of that texture blending kind of together so it doesn't look like they're separate mountains. Okay? And then if you're happy with that, you can, I want to try to maybe push it just a little bit more, see what I can do here. Yeah, that brown looks better. Okay, that's looking better. And now I'm gonna blow dry this. And my lightest mountain is my lightest tree, we're gonna start doing the trees, is way in the background here. So I'm gonna add some of this lighter green to some of this darker mid-range green, kind of mix and get a different color. Oh, that's a little too bright. Okay, I added actually a little bit of blue to that, and I like that a lot better. So this is going to be a little bit of my lighter color that I'm going to paint down here, just right in this fog. So I just kind of make a line, and then I'm going to just kind of scumble when I'm doing my little tree in here. Let me zoom in on that, and I'll do another one here. Using some scumbling techniques to get that tree in there. And then I'm going to darken up this color to make some of these that are coming closer. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of darker paint. I am adding brown to this to make that even darker. I'm just taking my brown or my paintbrush and then I'm going in and I'm just kind of drawing, like making this bigger and then going back in and filling that in. Small brush is really helpful, but the hardest part for me is getting these colors to kind of mix up. So I'm just rehydrating this one and getting it wet again. And then I'm going to actually thin it out a little bit over here in the corner because I want to make some that look like they're in the distance. So I don't want them to be quite as bright. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. I'm gonna just put another one here, but hopefully it'll look a little bit more watered out and to create kind of that illusion in the distance. And I like how that looks. You can kind of see that already kind of taking shape. So again, just kind of getting that more watered down feeling and doing maybe one more. That's off in the distance. I'll go back over here. And then I'm going to add some that are a little bit more close front and center. So I want this to be the darker color. So I'm gonna add a little bit of my brown to this to make this a little bit darker. Small. And then I want to make this a lot lighter again. I want to go back in and add a few more of these details just to bring this out a little bit more. So just some variations of green would be good in some of these distant trees. Just with some added texture on top. And I don't really love how this green is a little bit different. So I'm gonna try to pull some of my darker green kind of that I like. This one's a little bit more too teal on these tiny little trees. So trying to change the color of these just by going over them a little bit more, so hopefully add some of that. And I think that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of add some like brush details in this, and for this I want kind of like a medium sized brush. This one's a little bit too big. This one's probably perfect. So I'm going to just take my brush, and it's just kind of dry. I don't have a ton of paint on this. I'm dabbing into this, and I'm going to just kind of dab and add some texture on top. I want some of this to be thinned out. I'm going to add actually like a lighter, pull some of the lighter color that I mixed over in this corner, pull some of that to add some of this texture. I'm gonna also pull in some more paint. A little bit darker of a color. And I'm gonna try to go right along this line, kind of like an edging effect. That's what I don't want this to sit here. I want to kind of add this darker color up front is really adding a lot to the piece. Without it, it just looks too uniform. So I'm going to try to get it kind of in some different spots. And I also don't want this line that I made. So as you can see, I'm kind of stippling. And as I'm stippling, I'm kind of getting rid of some of that. I'm going to go back, try to get this dark again. And then right underneath the water, right in the water, then that's where this is going to come, except I want this to be kind of more of a blue green. So I'm going to add quite a bit of blue to this. And then with this, I'm going to just, this is also cutting in just very kind of this bushwork green. This right here is going to be all kind of dark from just even the reflection of the bushes. So kind of more of that brown still. Again, lots of colors on the water, so the more colors you can kind of get to blend in with this, the better this is going to look. And then a lot of this kind of tree. Kind of reflecting my tree, or trying to reflect my tree. Also about how tall it is. One direction is how tall it would be the other direction. And then these cuts in the water are going to give that, over top of this image, is it going to give that look. So I'm just using the very tip of my brush, going back and forth quite a bit to get kind of that look. Okay, I am all out of blue, so I'm gonna go get a blue refill. So this is the blue that I'm using, and I can just squirt that into that spot, and I have some more blue watercolor. This little bit of blue watercolor will last me quite a bit. So right now it's wet, so I can just pull it and start color mixing, or add more blue to this even. Oh yeah, that was great. And this blue too here, I can even pull some out here. So very light kind of touches to this. If I want, I can even try to go not always my favorite going that direction, but sometimes it pulls down. This is almost like dry brushing on top of this, and I kind of like that, a little bit of dry brush. And then if I want, I can even blend that. Let me back up a little bit. So I can even blend this just by getting my brush, my clean don't want to move the paper too much back and forth, otherwise it will get kind of pilly, but just enough to kind of have that overhaze on it is kind of nice. So you can kind of see that here. I feel like I need to darken up a little bit more of this. Okay, so what I kind of would like to do is darken a little bit of this area. If you need to blow dry, you can. I kind of have it already pretty dry. Just gonna mix a little bit darker color in here, kind of a green. So just trying to create a little bit more texture in here to make this look so you can use a variety of brush sizes like I've done here. This one's kind of creating like a nice line texture that I like a lot. The other one was kind of creating like a dot-like texture, so just kind of depending on what kind of works for you. So I really like how dark that kind of got in there to kind of create some of that vibe. I do feel like in the background maybe I need a little bit lighter. Oops. This happens too, just a water drop. You can just dab and pull that up and it should be fine. It shouldn't ruin anything. I think that's gonna be good. Maybe just a few more cuts in kind of the water.